Deep in the cold, snowy mountains of Scandinavia, there is a very old legend. The people of this land have passed it down for generations. The legend says that somewhere in those mountains, a terrifying creature is sleeping. His name is the Mountain King, a massive, horrifying troll, and he will stay asleep, buried deep in the rocks, unless one condition is not met. If the princess of the kingdom is not married by her 18th birthday, the Mountain King will wake up, and when he wakes up, he will come for her. Because of this legend, King Erik is under enormous pressure. His daughter, Princess Kristin, is almost 18 years old, and she is still not married. Erik loves his daughter, but he is also terrified of what will happen if the troll wakes up, so he is desperately searching for a husband for her before time runs out. One day, a prince named Frederick arrives at the castle. He walks in with his chest puffed out, using big fancy words that impress everyone in the room. He tells amazing stories about his adventures and brave deeds. King Erik is instantly charmed. He decides right then and there, Frederick will marry Kristin. He even gives Kristin a painted portrait of Frederick and tells her to start falling in love with him. But Kristin is not impressed. She doesn't want to marry someone she doesn't know, someone she never chose. She doesn't want to be handed off like a gift. So that very night, while the entire castle is asleep, Kristin slips out quietly, sneaks past the guards, and disappears into the dark forest. The only thing she leaves behind is a knife stabbed into Frederick's portrait. Her message is clear. She is not interested. Not far from the castle, a young man named Espen is walking through the forest. Espen is not a prince. He is not rich or powerful. He is just a simple farm boy with a warm heart and a curious mind that never stops asking questions. He is in the middle of his walk when suddenly a horse comes flying out of nowhere and slams into him, sending him tumbling straight into the river. Kristin pulls her horse to a stop. She realizes she has hit someone. She steps into the water to check, and the moment she gets close, Espen grabs her and pulls her under the water with him. Kristin, furious, immediately pulls him under right back. When they both surface, coughing and soaking wet, Espen is grinning. He is completely charmed by her. He tries to make conversation, cracking jokes, talking endlessly. But Kristin has no patience for this babbling stranger. She ignores him completely and tries to walk away. Then Espen mentions the food in his bag. Kristin hasn't eaten since she left the castle. Her stomach wins the argument. She sits down, and together they share the food. Well, Kristin eats almost everything, but she thanks him genuinely before walking away into the forest. Espen heads home to his family's farm, still smiling about the strange girl he met. But the mood at home is anything but cheerful. His two older brothers, Pier and Pal, have been working since sunrise, doing all their chores and covering for Espen's absence. They are exhausted and annoyed. Then their father delivers the worst news. While Espen was gone, a vulture swooped down and destroyed all their crops. It happened because Espen forgot to put up the scarecrow before leaving. And to make it worse, Espen gave away all the food and supplies he was supposed to bring back from the market. He gave them to Kristin. Now they have no crops and nothing to eat. Their father is furious. He scolds Espen hard, telling him he never pulls his weight. Then he takes Pear and Pal out hunting to try to find some food, leaving Espen alone at home to tend the fire. That evening, sitting alone by the fireplace, Espen begins to hear something strange from outside. Heavy thumping, deep, rumbling growls. The ground seems to shake with every step. Espen's imagination takes over immediately. He grabs the fire poker and holds it like a sword, pretending to be a great warrior facing down a monster. As he waves the poker dramatically, a piece of burning coal flies out of the fireplace and lands on the floor. Then another. Espen doesn't notice at first. He's too busy being a hero in his imagination. But when the smell of smoke hits him, he spins around and sees the floor is on fire. He grabs every bucket of water he can find and tries to fight the flames, but the fire spreads too fast. The walls catch. The ceiling catches. There is nothing Espen can do but stand outside and watch helplessly as his family's farmhouse burns completely to the ground, including the only photograph they had of their mother. Out in the forest, Kristin is still making her way toward freedom when she hears it too. The thumping, the growling. It gets louder and closer, and then she sees it. The Mountain King, enormous and terrifying, crashing through the trees toward her. She runs. She runs as fast as she can, but the troll is too fast, too powerful, and too big. Within moments, he grabs her and carries her away into the mountains. The next morning, Pear, Pal, and their father return from hunting and find nothing but ash and ruins where their home used to be. Espen tries to explain about the noises, about what he heard, about the troll. Nobody believes him. His father shakes his head in disappointment and gives Espen a cruel nickname, Ash Lad. Before the grief can fully settle in, Prince Frederick arrives at the farm with his soldiers, looking for Kristin. When Espen hesitates before saying he hasn't seen her, Frederick attacks him, demanding the truth. death. The father steps in to protect Espen and explains that his son is just careless, not dishonest. When the topic of the troll comes up, Frederick shares the king's announcement. Whoever finds Princess Kristin will receive her hand in marriage and half the entire kingdom as a reward. After Frederick and his men ride away, the father makes a decision. He pulls out the last of his money and hands it to Per and Pal. He asks them to go find the princess and earn the reward. Espen begs to help too. His father refuses. He gives Espen nothing, tells him he is more trouble than he is worth, and orders him not to come back. Espen watches his family leave. Then he follows them anyway. As the three brothers walk down the road, Espen keeps stopping to pick things up. A broken mirror lying in the dirt. An old rusty helmet sitting in the mud. Per and Pal roll their eyes every time. They tell him he is wasting everyone's time collecting garbage. But Espen picks them up anyway, tucks them into his bag, and keeps walking. After a few hours, Espen hears something. A faint voice crying for help from deep within the trees. Per and Pal keep walking without even slowing down. Espen stops. He cannot ignore someone in trouble. He pushes through the trees and follows the sound until he finds an old woman, a druid, who has somehow gotten herself trapped inside a hollow log. She is completely stuck and has been there for a long time. Espen picks up her hatchet and chops away at the wood until she is free. The druid is shaky and exhausted. She says she is starving. Espen reaches into his bag and pulls out his last potato. He gives it to her without hesitation. The druid looks at him with knowing eyes. She asks what he is doing out here. Espen explains he is searching for the princess. The druid's expression becomes serious. She tells him the princess has already been taken, captured by the Mountain King and locked deep in his cave. She also tells him the only way to defeat the Mountain King is to find a legendary sword called the Vebjorn. It is the most powerful weapon in the land, and it was last seen in a cursed, dangerous marsh far from here. Then she hands him a map. But there is a catch. The map looks completely blank. The druid explains that the image will only appear if Espen asks politely. Espen looks down at the empty parchment and sincerely, respectfully asks it to show him the way. The map lights up with paths and landmarks. Espen sets off following the map through the forest. Along the way, he spots something small and shiny on the ground, Kristin's brooch. He picks it up and smiles. He is going in the right direction. When night falls, Espen makes camp alone under the trees. He uses the old helmet he found earlier as a cooking pot, boiling some wild plants he found along the way. He eats his simple meal under the stars, alone but determined. Back in the troll's cave, Kristin wakes up surrounded by stone walls. The only way out is blocked by a massive boulder that she cannot budge no matter how hard she pushes. She is trapped. She sits back and looks around, trying to stay calm and think her way out. At the palace, King Erik is drowning in guilt. He knows his daughter ran away because of him. He paces his halls, unable to sleep. Then a messenger arrives with news. They found Kristin's horse in the forest, standing next to a massive tooth. The tooth belongs to a troll. The Mountain King has taken her. The next morning, Per and Pal are walking down a quiet road when they spot a basket sitting in the middle of the path. Inside are golden apples, perfectly ripe and glowing faintly. The brothers each take one and bite into it. The taste is incredible, sweet and warm and unlike anything they have ever eaten. They cannot stop. They eat another and another. Before long, the entire basket is empty. Then a group of beautiful women appears from between the trees and invites the brothers to follow them. Per and Pal, feeling strangely relaxed and happy, follow without asking any questions. Nearby, Espen sees his brothers walking into the forest with these women and gets a bad feeling. He tries to follow, but the path is blocked by a wall of branches and vines. It will not open. He looks around and notices a single golden apple on the ground. He takes just one bite, and the path opens. Inside the lair, Espen finds his brothers sitting at a long table, laughing and eating and having a wonderful time with the women around them. Espen sits down too, but the moment he reaches for the food, something strange happens. He blinks, and for just a second, the food looks rotten and black. He blinks again, and the women's faces flicker. Their beautiful faces crack, revealing something monstrous underneath. Espen keeps his expression calm. He realizes what is happening. His brothers ate the whole apple, so they are completely under the spell. He only took one bite, so he can still see the truth. He pretends to enjoy himself and eat more, waiting for the right moment. When one of the nymphs pushes another golden apple toward him and urges him to eat, Espen pretends to take a bite and then quietly pockets it. Then he calmly gets up, walks to his brothers, and pulls them away from the table. Out of sight of the nymphs, he slaps them both hard across the face. Per and Pal blink. They look around. The rotten food, the crumbling walls, the monstrous nymphs staring at them with black eyes. They run. The nymphs shriek and chase after them. The path begins to close, the vines and branches knitting themselves back together to trap the brothers inside forever. The three of them sprint as fast as they can and dive through the closing gap just in time. They land on the other side, breathing hard, safe. Now the three brothers are together again. As they walk, Per and Pal argue about which mythical creatures are real and which are just stories. Per points out that trolls make sense. They are hurt by sunlight, so they only come out at night, which is why most people never see them. But unicorns? There is no logical explanation for those. Back in the cave, Kristin hears the boulder scraping against the entrance. The troll steps in. He drops a pile of raw animal bones on the floor in front of her, his idea of food. Kristin fights every instinct to gag. She knows that making the troll angry right now would be a terrible idea. So she smiles politely and pretends to eat. On the road, Espen bends down and picks up a ball of yarn he finds in the dirt. Per sighs loudly. But before anyone can argue, Pal spots a town nearby on the horizon. Everyone agrees they need food and rest. They find a tavern and sit down. At a table nearby, Prince Frederick and his soldiers are also eating. They are loud, demanding, and incredibly rude to the poor waitress who is trying to serve them. Espen watches them with quiet irritation. Then one of Frederick's men notices the map in Espen's hands. Frederick immediately stands up and comes to their table. He puts on a charming smile and says he is desperately searching for Kristin because they are deeply in love and meant to be together. He promises a generous reward for information. Per and Pal exchange glances. They only want enough money to rebuild the farm. Selling the map sounds like an easy solution, but Espen shakes his head. He says quietly that if Kristin truly loved Frederick, she would not have run away from him in the middle of the night. Frederick's smile disappears. Per tries to push Espen to hand it over. Espen still refuses. At that moment, the waitress arrives with their food. Espen picks up his bowl of hot stew and throws it directly into Frederick's face. The tavern explodes. Chairs fly. Fists swing. Every person in the building jumps into the brawl. Espen grabs a rolling pin from the waitress to defend himself as Frederick comes at him with his sword. They clash across the tables. Frederick knocks the rolling pin out of Espen's hands. Espen grabs a spoon. Frederick laughs, and then a huge, burly man whose food just got stepped on grabs the prince and hurls him across the room. The brothers use the chaos to run. They burst out the door and sprint into the woods, but Frederick and his men recover fast and chase them to the edge of a cliff. There is nowhere left to go. Espen pretends to reach into his bag for the map. Then he grabs his brothers, and all three of them jump off the cliff into the river below. They swim to the shore, soaking wet and exhausted. Per rounds on Espen immediately. He is furious. They could have taken the money and walked away. Now they have made a dangerous enemy out of a prince. Per says something cruel, that the family would be better off without Espen in it at all. Espen snaps. He launches himself at Per, and the two of them start fighting right there on the riverbank. Pal throws himself between them and forces them apart. Per grabs the map and storms off down the road. Espen, stinging from the words but too stubborn to quit, follows. A little further down the road, Espen spots a thick bear skin lying on the ground. He picks it up and slings it over his shoulder. Per doesn't even bother saying anything anymore. In the cave, things are getting more urgent. The troll lumbers in and gestures to Kristin. It is time to get married, he says in his low, rumbling voice. Kristin grabs a piece of bone and holds it up like a weapon, but she knows that will not stop a creature this size, so she puts the bone down and uses her brain instead. She looks the troll in the eye and tells him very seriously, there cannot be a wedding without a proper dress. She does not have one. Without a wedding dress, the wedding is not real. The troll blinks. He stares at her. Then he turns around and walks back out into the mountains to find her a dress. Kristin exhales slowly. The brothers eventually reach the marsh. The moment they step inside, a thick fog rolls in from all sides, swallowing everything around them. Visibility drops to almost nothing. Espen's boot sinks into the mud and gets stuck. He struggles to pull it free. When he finally looks up, Per and Pal have walked straight into the fog and vanished. Lost in the gray silence, they begin hearing strange sounds. Then figures emerge from the fog. Soldiers, Frederick's men. They grab Per and Pal before either of them can react. Frederick appears behind them, looking very pleased with himself. He asks where Espen is. Per looks him in the eye and says Espen is dead. He says it calmly and convincingly, protecting his little brother without hesitation. Meanwhile, Espen wanders through the fog alone until he finds a dark, still lake. He recognizes it from the map. Without stopping to think, he dives in. Beneath the surface, strange, mossy creatures drift through the dark water. At the very bottom, half buried in the silt, is the Tvegir, the legendary sword, exactly where the druid said it would be. Espen grabs the hilt. Immediately, the creatures swarm toward him. He struggles and kicks and fights his way back up through the water, bursting through the surface with the sword held high. He made it. Sometime later, Frederick's group marches out of the marsh using the map they took from Per. They stop in the forest for a break. Per sees his chance. He grabs a fistful of dirt and throws it at his guard's face, then sprints toward the nearest horse. The horse looks at him. Per pulls at the reins. The horse does does not move a single inch. The guard grabs Per and drags him back. Espen finds his way out of the marsh not long after, sword in hand. He swings it at a tree trunk just to test the blade. The trunk splits cleanly in two. He smiles. Then he pulls the bearskin out of his bag and gets to work on a plan. Frederick's camp goes into immediate panic when a massive bear comes charging out of the trees straight at them. Soldiers scatter in every direction, but one large, fearless guard steps forward and grabs the bear and rips the skin right off, revealing Espen underneath. Espen gets captured. Frederick takes the sword away from him, but he does not kill the brothers. Not yet. He has a better idea. He will use all three of them as bait to lure Kristin out of the cave, and if Kristin refuses to cooperate, all of them will die, her included. That night, the group camps in the forest. The brothers are tied to a tree. Pal says he is hungry. The soldiers laugh and throw food just out of his reach, watching him strain toward it. Then the ground starts shaking. The growling comes first, deep, slow, and enormous. Then the trees begin to tremble. Frederick and every one of his soldiers takes one look at the darkness between the trees and runs. They leave the brothers tied to the tree without a second thought. The troll crashes into the camp. The tree the brothers are tied to groans and begins to crack as the troll grabs it. Espen spots a sharp rock near his feet. He gets it between his bound wrists and saws frantically at the ropes. The fibers snap just as the troll rips the tree out of the ground. Espen and Per sprint into the forest. Pal stops first to grab the food the soldiers threw on the ground, then runs after them. The three of them squeeze into a hiding spot between some rocks and hold their breath. Per sees the food in Pal's arms and almost loses his mind. He grabs it and throws it as far away as he can. The smell will give them away, he whispers furiously. The food bounces off 3 trees, rolls across the ground, and lands directly beside them. In the darkness nearby, Frederick is climbing a tree to hide. One of his last remaining soldiers tries to climb up after him. Frederick kicks him off the branch. The soldier falls to the ground right in front of the troll. That still is not enough to make the troll leave. He starts shaking Frederick's tree with both hands, the whole thing swaying violently back and forth. Frederick holds on for his life. The brothers wait in silence. Eventually, the sounds stop. They look at each other. Maybe it is safe now. Then the troll finds them. He sniffs the air, looks straight at their hiding spot, and reaches in. He grabs Pal. Then he is gone, disappearing back into the mountains with Pal under his arm. When the troll throws Pal into the cave, he also throws Frederick in with him. Kristin stares at the prince she was supposed to marry. She is completely unimpressed. Frederick insists that arriving as a prisoner is all part of his master plan. Pal quietly tells Kristin that he personally heard Frederick say he would kill her if she did not cooperate. Kristin picks up a bone and hits Frederick over the head, knocking him out cold. Then she turns to Pal with the bone still raised. Pal holds up his hands and quickly explains that he is just a farmer, nothing more. He tells her about his family, about the burned farm, about his brothers. When Pal mentions Espen's name, something changes in Kristin's eyes. A small smile, a little hope. Back in the forest, Espen is crying. He is blaming himself for Pal getting taken. Per sits down next to him and does something he has never really done before. He tells Espen the truth. He says yes. Espen drives him absolutely crazy. He complains constantly and causes chaos everywhere he goes. But Per also says that Espen does things that nobody else could ever do. He sees things differently. He never stops believing, and he should never, ever stop. The two brothers search the ground where the chaos happened and find the legendary sword where it had been dropped in the commotion. They also find Espen's bag, and inside one of the jars in the bag, fireflies are glowing softly. Espen gets an idea. He collects more fireflies and mixes them with a little honey to keep them calm. The jar glows steadily like a lantern. Per and Espen use the glowing jar to light their way to the Mountain King's lair. The place is horrifying. Human bones cover the ground. The inside is dark and twisted and goes in every direction like a maze. Espen pulls the ball of yarn from his bag, ties one end near the entrance, and lets it unspool behind him as they walk. Now, no matter how deep they go, they can always find their way back. They push deeper into the labyrinth. At one point, Espen steps on what looks like solid ground and crashes straight through, falling into a hole below. He throws his arms out and the sword catches across the edges of the hole, stopping his fall. He hangs there for a second, heart pounding. Then he looks down and realizes this hole connects directly into the cave where the prisoners are being kept. He calls down quietly. Kristin's face appears looking up at him. Per lowers a rope. One by one, they pull people up. Kristin first, then Pal, and finally even Frederick, who grabs the rope without thanking anyone. They follow the yarn back through the labyrinth, retracing their steps carefully. They are almost at the exit when they see him, the Mountain King, lying across the passageway asleep. In his arms is a wedding dress. To get past him, they have to jump over his tail without making a sound. Kristin goes first. She lands perfectly. Pal goes next. Clean. Per, clean. Esp, clean. Frederick goes last. He misjudges the jump, catches his foot on the troll's tail, and crashes to the ground. The troll's eyes open. Everyone runs. They burst out of the cave and stop at the edge of the mountain. Going down is too too slow. The troll will catch them in seconds on the open slope. Kristin looks up and then looks at the sky. The first faint light of dawn is beginning to color the horizon. She says they need to go up. Sunlight hurts trolls. If they can reach the top before he reaches them, the sun will do the rest. They start climbing. The Mountain King comes roaring out of the cave and starts after them. The climb is brutal. Halfway up, Frederick slips and nearly falls off the edge. Espen reaches back and grabs him. Even after everything, Espen cannot bring himself to let someone fall. Frederick responds to being saved by immediately spotting a gap in the rocks and crawling into it to hide, leaving everyone else to deal with the troll alone. They reach the summit. The Mountain King is right behind them. Espen spins around and holds up the sword. He runs at the troll and slashes the blade across the troll's ankle. The troll barely feels it. He swats Espen like a fly and sends him skidding across the rocks. The sword tumbles off the edge of the mountain. Per grabs a rock and hurls it at the troll. Then another. The troll turns and swings his arm, hitting Per so hard that he is knocked off his feet and lies completely still on the ground. Pal kneels beside his brother, shaking him, calling his name. He looks up at Espen with tears streaming down his face and tells him to do something. The sun is almost up, just seconds away. Espen reaches into his bag one last time and pulls out the broken mirror, the piece of junk his brothers laughed at him for picking up off the road. He holds it up and angles it carefully as the very first ray of sunlight breaks over the mountain. The beam hits the mirror and bounces directly onto the Mountain King. The troll freezes. His skin goes gray. His limbs lock. From his feet upward, his entire body turns to solid stone. Espen runs to Per and drops down beside him. Per is not moving. Espen shakes him. Then Per coughs, blinks, and opens his eyes. He is alive. The brothers grab each other. Pal bursts into tears. Even Per, who never cries, struggles to hold it together. Kristin walks up to the troll's stone body and hits it. The statue cracks. She hits it again. The Mountain King crumbles to pieces. Down the other side of the mountain, Frederick is making his way alone back toward civilization. He reaches the forest and comes across the druid sitting quietly on a log. He looks at her and calls her ugly. The druid gives him very detailed, very confident, completely wrong directions to the nearest town. Frederick thanks her and marches off in entirely the wrong direction. Weeks later, King Eric gets a visit he was not expecting. The three brothers arrive at the palace gates, and walking beside them is Kristin, safe and smiling. Eric runs to his daughter and holds her tightly. When they finally separate, Eric looks at Espen awkwardly. He knows the promise he made. The one who rescues the princess gets her hand in marriage and half the kingdom. He does not know how to say this without upsetting Kristin again. Espen steps in before things get complicated. He says simply that they do not want the princess or the kingdom. They just want enough money to rebuild their farm. Eric blinks, then he laughs with relief and agrees immediately. He also tells Kristin something he should have said a long time ago. She can marry whoever she wants, whenever she wants. No more pressure, no more deadlines. It is her choice. The brothers head home. Their father is standing in the yard when they arrive. He sees Per and Pal and hugs them hard. Then he looks up and sees Espen standing a little bit apart from the group, hanging back, not sure if he is welcome after everything that happened. The father walks over to him and pulls him into a hug. Both of them apologize at the same time. Espen hands his father the reward money. Per tells their father the whole story, that none of it would have happened without Espen, that Espen is the reason they all made it home. The father looks at his youngest son and tells him that his mother would have been so proud of him. He also says he is sorry for the nickname. Ashlad was meant as an insult. Espen shakes his head and smiles. He says he wants to keep it. Over the following weeks, the farm begins to come back to life. New walls go up. The fields get replanted. Slowly, things start to look like home again, and Kristin comes to visit, often. She and Espen take long walks through the forest together, talking and laughing, discovering that the world is much bigger and stranger and more wonderful than either of them imagined, especially when you face it together. Deep in the forest, far from the farm, from the palace, and from anyone who can help him, Frederick wanders in circles. He is hungry. He is lost. He is thoroughly miserable. Then he spots something bright on the ground between the roots. A golden apple. His eyes light up. He reaches down and takes a bite. From between the trees, a group of beautiful women steps forward and smiles at him.